Chilly, huh? Invigorating.
The snow, wherever it's thin, is ice now
Oh, yeah.
because of the cold wind.
Oh, yeah. No, no.
It's like ice.
I
Oh, winters.
was in, it's great here, probably 6, 7 years ago. Went to Starbucks, had, 2 coffees.
In Great Neck?
Yeah, in the supermarket, in the
Yeah.
shopping center.
Yeah.
So I,
Oh. And you're
right out.
right.
So I hit the,
Coccyx.
no, right here.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I went down. So I was laying on the ground. 3 people came over to me. First person said, "You all right?" I go, "Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm here having a conversation." I said, "Did I hit my head?" They go, "Oh yeah, definitely hit your head." So I was like, "Okay." The second person said, "Here's your glasses." The third person says, "Starbucks will replace those 2 coffees." I go,
Thank you.
I said,
That was my
as
biggest
I was
worry.
foaming from the mouth. Yeah. That was my biggest worry.
Starbucks will replace them. Good evening. Say it is over here.
It's good.
This is all see.
Now that my yarmulkes are named after, his yarmulke is named after me. I
Because you went to Michigan.
38 so far, on my way.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was my daughter.
Oh, nice.
You like it?
I'm very happy for her.
I,
And
first
you know
time
what
I
she
thought-
named?
You ever,
Baby?
have you ever listened to his
I know
YouTube?
she was.
No, she named it Lana Scalia because her mother was
Yeah, but it's the same
Nana.
thing everywhere you go.
Now, he was very nice. I've heard a lot of new stuff, like he did a thing, he was doing a thing,
I
that
think
said,
she
I raised the rates for today. Yeah, because of the snow, you're right.
who rates?
Oh,
Now we're charging it?
we drive. And there's a rabbi.
Did you pick Marty up on the way?
Yes. We miss Marty. Oh. I just told them the rates are higher today.
The rates are higher.
Yeah, because of the
Have
weather.
to be more careful driving home.
It's like a fuel surcharge.
Oh, okay.
Fuel surcharge.
It's not like a trucker.
It's just like the Amazon. It's just,
Can't you be all electric?
Yes, but you gotta pay for the
back
electric.
then, you made like, people used to plug their cars in
You turn the lights on.
because they heat the engine.
That's the whole fallacy of it.
Like friends that
But
were
when they were here, they had that little
Yeah, we did that in
to keep the
Montreal.
engine.
It all depends on how you,
Engine block, yeah.
It was like a
how you
mountain.
make your electricity.
It was something where, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it wasn't a blend. It was built into the engine,
Yeah. Because just you go.
Oh, the heater?
the engine blocks.
Yeah, it's just it's like a metal rod that's insulated, so keeps the.
Plug it in all night.
Now it happened because of.
Wisconsin people, some people used to have.
We had that in Montreal.
That-
But now
Lived there for 2 years.
motors are, and now they're so.
I remember my
Yeah,
car.
now they're all,
Yeah.
Now
what's
it's.
it called?
It's a different type of
It's
Some
injection.
kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
fuel injection or something?
Well, fuel injection, the batteries are better, technology, like it's everything just is.
And the electric will never have this problem. Except the batteries lose their efficiency in the cold. Oh. But the Mercedes, my diesels used to have a plug.
Yeah. Those
My wife
motors
says
are-
I have the same problem, I lose my efficiency in the cold.
Because we know the Cantor is all about efficiency.
Yes, that'd be efficient.
My driveway is sheared like ice.
Yeah.
The wind is so
You need to
cold.
put salt,
It's
it's the only way to deal with it. Salt or, salt or sand or some combination. Salt works very well. The only problem is it'll kill your
doesn't work.
I can't, I make it for
Yeah, of course, it's a.
You have to match
You
it.
just bring it, that's why. Yeah, we'll get.
So you have to do the air fryer, and you grill it, that's how you make it last these days.
The only way to do it is,
The ladies are showing.
but I saw that if you put a carrot in the oil,
Oh my God, everyone's been talking about
that it
this.
doesn't burn. It's an old thing now. It's not surprised.
You put it frying pan.
Yeah.
You put a carrot.
Yeah, with the oil.
Yeah.
A carrot.
Carrot.
A carrot.
Tina was
In the
talking
oil,
about this.
okay, and you put a carrot, they don't burn. Don't ask me why, I saw it online with
Have you tried it?
some kosher thing.
The carrot burns up and the potato doesn't. That's what
I
Tina
don't
was saying.
know, it's very good. I'm gonna try
It's
it.
a kind of a miracle.
You know,
Beautiful
a
carrot.
raw carrot. I'm gonna try it.
Burn
I'm
Muslims in Europe who came there to colonize.
Oh, just like
Europe.
the Syrian refugees.
Talking about the ones that fled Assad.
But many years ago, like, I don't know how many years it was, but 30, 40 years ago, I was in London, and they were all Muslims.
Yes,
Oh,
me too.
It's-
We made
they're
a
all
mistake.
very evil.
That's what I'm saying.
We
There
made
are
a
areas
mistake.
the police won't even go.
There were
They
so
leave it
many of
completely
them.
alone,
I was
afraid to go.
surprised.
We were there for New Year's Eve about 5, 6 years ago and took a room at the Marriott, which was the closest Marriott to Buckingham Palace. We thought we were getting, a very good,
Location, right?
very good location. It was completely Muslim, the entire area.
Right.
There were no English signs. We felt very uncomfortable. Stayed there for 4 days. It was very uncomfortable. Not that anyone bothered us, honestly.
I mean,
It's
I
just
heard
uncomfortable.
they were all, I mean, you were spending like.
It was walking distance to Buckingham Palace, which is nice. It was like a 15-minute walk. But it was, you walk out the hotel, it was like being in a Muslim country. And of course, most of the women were dressed in complete black.
Even at that time, they
Yeah.
were, you know.
Yeah, this is 5, 6 years
Lord,
ago. Okay. Have we reached the time? Okay.
Havdalah, can you leave? Like, difference? But together?
Individually, but together?
Individually.
But together.
All right. Page 170. אשר שבטיך עוד יעללוך סלע. מלכותך מלכות גדולה. תהילת אדוני בפיו יברך בצד וקודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה. קדוש, קדוש, קדוש. ברוך כבוד. אדוני צבאות יעקב ברכנו שיום חננו מיום קורנו. יבטחו בך יד שמך, כי לאו זאת ראשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.
Down quietly on our own, 178.
Sanoa. She did it.
Yeah, when I know she left, I sent an email to her, and she responded 24 hours later.
Yeah.
I'm here.
We really didn't think she would do it.
Really?
You know, she's been talking about it for years. I didn't think she would actually do it.
She lives in Israel now.
Yeah.
Can you un-Aliyah?
Sure. You just leave the country.
Just leave the country.
Come back. You have to, I think, if you stay out 2 years without coming back for significant time.
Gotcha.
Though in the end, it really doesn't matter, because if you're Jewish, you have a right of returns.
Right.
This whole Aliyah thing is not really,
Okay.
you do get certain benefits, financial benefits.
Living there?
Yeah, and if you don't stay, I think you have to stay for 9 months once you make Aliyah. If you don't, if you leave for a significant time, and they kind of have to pull it back, they will sue you for all that.
Nice.
I think it's longer than 9 months, so
Yeah,
I think so.
a year.
I don't know how long, but it's,
Yeah, because obviously, yeah, people will take advantage of that. You know.
We used to take refrigerators and
Right,
stoves, and
exactly. So,
the Lower East Side had a thriving business.
yes, but now they give you like significant amount off on that stuff. And, so you could, you know,
or you're gonna buy, I think it's, if you're gonna buy a house, or an apartment,
give you
that's the
a very good
thing is,
mortgage.
if you, the only way to get that otherwise, I'm not afraid to do it, but the other case, if you are a veteran of Tzahal, then you get certain benefits.
And you can enter they have lotteries all the time, but you have to.
You gotta know.
Well, the young people know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how can a young couple, how can they buy anything? It's like trying to buy New York City.
Yeah. I had lunch with Gabriel Levy, the Yossi Klein Levy's son, one of the sons, who does this, soccer teams and stuff. One of them that we sponsored last year, and he does that organization. And he just got married, and they got a place, you know, like out a little bit. It's like near a national forest. I don't remember exactly where, but it's like,
Near Jerusalem?
yeah, kind of, you didn't even get a car.
Koresh is the forest near Jerusalem.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know which, I think it was near Beta Caro or something, and I think how much, you know, 3-bedroom place is there, 1.5 million.
And that's shekels, dollars.
That's dollars.
Yeah.
Real estate, that's always.
And as my mother always reminds me, it's not fair to make the exchange because they don't earn in dollars. They earn in
Right,
shekels,
exactly.
and they don't earn 4 times what we do, you know, so.
They earn 4 times less.
We only make the association just to get our own
Yeah.
weights and measures in our head. That's all.
Right, but it's just, have to do it. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. הוא אלוהינו ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
No one here is saying Kaddish today, right? Oh, we could do the prayer in lieu of Kaddish. We might just do that. A little learning? Okay. How about a choice? Should we learn about how we act like angels or how we act like a king?
Like a what, king?
A king or an angel? Which do you prefer? Or, okay, it's not a trick question, it's just not being clear. Which book do you want to learn from?
Let's start with the angel, and if we like that, we'll go to the next chapter to do the king.
Okay, so Blue Sidor. But before we get to the page, before we get to the exact thing, we acknowledge or we say that the Torah is divine, but it's also shaped by human understanding. Yeah? What is the one verse or one idea in the entire Torah that we would hold up as the closest to God's truth as we can get, that we feel confident is close to God's truth?
One God.
So we got one God and Shema, which is
Same thing.
you guys are in agreement, right? I would agree. That's my sense too. That we say the Shema has a veracity, a truthfulness to it that, in an absolute sense, right? God's oneness, and so it is a very important verse, and when we say it, it's elevating, right? There's something about it that picks us up. And what we're going to do is look at a place where it is really a transition from a spiritual high or a spiritual imagination. Let me not be conceptual here because it's really better just to get into it. It's a transition point in the Kedusha Rabbah, the Kedusha that we say as part of Musaf. Right, there's a part that comes before the Shema, and there's a part that comes after the Shema. And the way it functions is really informative in terms of what we're doing and how we do it. So let's take a look at page 157. Right, and every Kedusha that we say has a few pieces that are always there. for example.
Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh.
Right, kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. That's one. What's another thing that's always there? Baruch Kavod Hashem. Yeah, that's always there. Yimloch and Lodor. Yeah, so Yimloch and Lador Vador, right? So, and some of those are part of like Ezekiel's vision, who was a radical dude, right? Like, if you read Ezekiel, it's very trippy. It's like what he envisions, what he sees for the divine, God of like this four-sided being that flies, and it's fantastical, right? But every Kedusha also begins, even though it begins with different words, before we get to Ezekiel, we begin in different ways, but by saying the same thing, essentially. Now, in Kedusha of Musaf, we begin with Na'aritzacha, V'nakdishacha, right? And in Shachrit, we begin with Nikadesh Shimcha Ba'olam, right? What does it say here for the translation here, Na'aritzacha? Someone want to read it out loud for us?
We revere and hallow you on earth, as your name is hallowed in heaven.
Right? We revere God's name here on earth just as God's name is hallowed, is sanctified in heaven. Same thing, Nekadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam. We sanctify God, your name in this world. Keshem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom. Just as your name is hallowed in heaven. In the heavens, or in the spiritual plane. Right? So, we are making a statement about what we're doing. So, what does it tell us we're doing? What are we going to do right now in the Kedusha? We have this first sentence. It tells us what we're going to do. It's our intention. What are we doing? We're revering and hallowing, right? And so because we revere and we hallow all the time, right? So we'll say the blessings of Shacharit, and we're also sanctifying and revering God, right? But now we add this extra piece, which is we're going to do it not like we do it normally, but like in heaven, meaning like who normally would be doing the sanctifying of God in heaven? The angels, the malachim, right? Not us, but the malachim. So the statement that we make at the beginning of every Kedusha is we are going to kind of imagine we are ascending. I hate to say ascending because it suggests that it's like, up. But we are supposed to be entering a different spiritual plane. Not the human one, but we're going to pretend for a few moments that we are in the angelic plane or the angelic sphere.
Can we imagine the people who passed on, who were in heaven, also revere it? Or is it only angels? Well, whatever an angel is.
That's a really interesting question. So it depends on what time period we answer from, right? So Ezekiel, if we're talking about Ezekiel and we're talking about the prophetic time, then, and I think really actually, let me say generally speaking, we have Olam Haba, the world to come, which is not the same thing as this heavenly sphere. Right? So Olam Haba is whatever the world to come will be, the next iteration of something, of life, of something. But the heavenly sphere is not a place like heaven can wait. You know, everybody remember that movie with Ned Beatty? Ned Beatty or? Warren Beatty. Yeah, the more attractive Beatty. Yeah, right. And he's up in, and it's like, you know, he's walking on the clouds. Heaven is not a place, right? This is an imagination of the forces that surround God or the Godhead, to use Kabbalistic language. So this is all in our heads. This is all imagination because God isn't any place. But if there's some sort of, if we have access to thinking about the pure emanation of God's Spirit and the angels that are the forces of God at play in the world, we are imagining that we are going to praise God in the same way that those forces are praise of God in that sphere. So,
There's a midrash I recall learning about that says that God conferred with the angels about creating human beings, and that they fought him on it and said, "No, you're making a mistake.
yeah.
It's not going to be good. And why do you want to muck up the world?" And so this midrash would suggest that the angel is separate from human beings, or even the souls that are good to go to as human beings, and that so we don't become angels when we die.
Oh,
Our
no.
soul returns to God, but the angels are the angels. We're not the angels.
Yeah, so the angel, yeah, that's the midrash is used by Rashi to try to answer the question of, in Bereshit, how can it be that we are created kidmutenu, right? There's a plural. How can it be, let us make man in our image? And Rashi said, what do you mean our image? Right, so in the angels in this, they're arguing about, no, you shouldn't do it, they're going to be bad, right? Yeah, so there's a separate, we don't have access to that. This is in our imagination that we are going to, for a few moments, as elevated by the singing of our cantor, we are going to be in a spiritual high point. Now, it helps to think about the role of angels, at least in the imagination of the rabbis and the Tanakh, to understand what that means. Because, like, it sounds great. Like, let's try to imagine ourselves like angels for a few minutes, and we're going to be, like, filled with their power, you know, with their connection to God, and it's going to lift us up. But what does that really mean?
Ties into a question of you a few weeks ago about the the bowing
Yeah.
to the angels.
So, what if we think of an angel, a malach, it has a defining character, it has a number of defining characteristics, but one of them is something it lacks that we have.
So,
I don't know about a neshama, and I don't know about a goof. Probably, but maybe, I don't know. But free will. Someone say free will, right? Yeah.
Free choice.
Free will, yeah, free choice, free will. God gave us the Torah. We hopefully try to live by it. But we make choices. We have to make choices. The malachim, they are the agents of God. They don't have free will. They do what they are told to do, or what they are ordered to do, or what they are commanded to do. So for us, when we are trying to be like angels, one of the things that we're trying to kind of imagine ourselves being and doing is doing the pure will of God in the way that the malachim do. how does that, can you connect that for me? I'm a little lost.
Well, it doesn't seem to be a lot of free will in the way the services are conducted and the beliefs are structured.
Ah,
I think it's no different in Reform. If you belong to a Reform synagogue, you follow their tenets. You can't walk into a Reform synagogue and say, I just want to pray this way and I don't care
Sure
about.
you can,
You can do that here too, though.
you ca-
You can come here and daven
but it's
any way you want.
accepted there.
It is not.
no, you could not go,
When was the last time you were there?
I've had conversations with my wife about that.
Maybe he runs it differently.
you can't do Musaf at a Reformed temple.
Don't.
You can't do,
Think of it.
you can't do Musaf at a Reformed temple.
Think of it.
You'll get chased out of the building.
Depends on the rabbis. There are some reform that are now doing tefillin more regularly. We have a new rabbi community
Mhm.
teaching kids tefillin. That hasn't happened in a long time.
Okay. That's interesting. But if we could just get back to the Kedusha for a minute, and I think if we sent you to parts of Brooklyn for a week, you'd come back and think, wow, there's so much free choice here in terms of how we worship. You know, it's all relevant. It's all relative. But the point here is that while it is the loss of free will, it is the knowledge of doing what is perfect for a short moment. Like, what are moments? Think about moments in life. If you can think of one. I mean, it's hard to find necessarily that many, probably. But when we think about moments where we know we're in the right place, we're doing exactly what we're meant to be doing in that moment. And those are powerful times, right? Those are very powerful moments. You know, being at the bedside with someone who's letting their loved one die as you hold their hand. When you're clergy, you know, like there's no other place I'm supposed to be right now. It's right here. And I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But most of the time we have doubt. Most of the time we have we're doing our best we can, right? And here in the Kedusha, it's trying to help us imagine for a second that feeling of knowing we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing when we're supposed to be doing it, like the angels. So it's not a human experience, it's a beyond the human experience, but one that's supposed to elevate us. Or like, in another way to look at it is,
It's doing God's work. It's doing God's work. It could be in whatever you do.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's the knowing that you're doing it right.
Doing it or doing it right.
We're doing it right. You know, that without doubt, without any question at all about, like with perfect faith, this is exactly what I should be doing when I should be doing it. You know, so it's to go to a sports metaphor, because why not? You know, it's like when we think of a great athlete who does it, you know, so perfectly, as we try to emulate. It's the thing kids do all the time, or those of us who don't grow up in certain ways, right? We think about like a hero, a sports hero, and imagine that we're doing it like them, or we're trying to emulate them to help us feel like or to feel better, to feel like we're doing it better.
Maybe another sports analogy.
Yeah.
Would be like, in a football game, let's say, you've got the coach
Mm-hmm.
who supposedly has a higher knowledge of the game,
Yeah.
been around it longer, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he creates plays.
Yeah.
And all the players, once the play is called, they know exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any doubt. They don't have to worry about what their
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and Mike, actually, when I played football, one of the annoying things our coach would say was, every play is a touchdown play. If you all execute perfectly, every play can score a touchdown. We're like, well, you're not really taking into account the other team, right? But yet it's the same, like, exactly. If you can carry out the coach's vision perfectly, then you'll be kind of doing it perfectly. So, like, yeah, we're carrying out God's plan perfectly. And that's what we're trying to do, or trying to imagine that feeling when we're singing about the angels. Wait, who are, yes, because what are the angels doing all day long? They're praising God. And that's where the back and forth of Zeh El Zeh, right? It's like, to use sports again, it's like watching tennis, right? The angels are batting the holiness of the tennis ball back and forth, and we're going Zeh El Zeh. No? Okay. Anyway, but because it's not like it's one side versus the other. But the point here is that the angels are, these malachim are just singing praise. Choruses of angels, one to the other, praising God perfectly. So that's what we're doing when we're going, the bowing Zeh El Zeh, and the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh is just the sense of perfect holiness that fills the world. Right? And then Kivodo Malei Olam, God's holiness, God's glory fills the world. And the angelic choruses ask, where is God's glory? And the other ones respond, God's glory is praised throughout the universe. It's kind of like a rhetorical spiritual question, right? So, summing up those verses of Kadosh, 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 and Kivodo Malei Olam, and Baruch Kivod Hashem Mimkomo, what do those sentences say? What do they, sum them up in like your own words?
Is it taking the prayers to a different level? I mean, so I'm a little bit hung up on the Kedusha is the one part of this Amidah that we do really together, right?
Yeah.
So there's this interaction between, the Shliach Tzibur and the congregation, and, it's this elevated section. It's never repeated. It's like, sometimes we read the Amidah once and then we repeat it, but only the Kedusha is done, one time. So,
Well,
I'm just trying to think as we're getting us to this pinnacle where we're trying to come together to elevate us as a group, like the angels are doing it all together.
exactly, and it's also in the way we are standing, right? The way we're behaving and acting, because we stand with our feet together. We're at attention. We're not supposed to talk to one another. We're not supposed to be distracted from what we're doing. We're not supposed to be, moving. Everyone's supposed to be only facing towards the ark, and the only movement is in our voices responding back and forth with the leader of the prayers, right? The back and the forth, boom, 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 boom. And that's a unique thing. The only thing, Sandy, is we do say a kedusha whenever we daven. It's the bracha Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kdashim B'Chol Yom Yelu Chasela Baruch Atah Hashem Ha'el HaKadosh, that we say that when it's a silent Amidah, and the kedusha is basically that blessing that's blown up, right? But it's very different because we're acting it out. I mean, it's not. It really brings into a different life to it. And so when you add the choreography right into it, you get that sense of back and forth, because we say something, Cantor sings it back, and then Cantor goes on, and then we sing it back, and then, right, there's this back and the forth.
So we're role playing. Like, this is God talking to the angels, and now it's
Yeah, I think this is one chorus of angels speaking to the other chorus and back and forth. All in praise of God. So we're doing that, we're acting this out in this play acting way until we say the Shema. Right? The Shema is like it's the transition point. It's the fold. When we say human words again. Right before that, we were saying these angelic words. We were speaking the words of the angels in the imagination of Yechezkel, among others. But then we say the Shema. And we come down to earth. We are back to being human. And I'll show you a cool thing that kind of points that out a little bit. If we look above the Shema, when we talk about God, how do we talk about God? It's in the third person. Right? Mim komo hu yifen. Right? It's in God's place. It's this distance. Even though it's the angelic chorus, it's this distance of the third person. But after the Shema, when we say the Shema together, we say, Hu Eloheinu. God is our God. God is our Father, Avinu. God is our King. Second person possessive. Right, so we're like when we say the Shema, we're like kind of almost claiming ownership. That's too strong, but we are taking kind of
By accepting the gift.
We're stepping into it, right? We're owning our place. Yes, that's much better. Like there's a sense of ownership because we're taking it on, but it's not. We can't own God, right? So we're taking our place. We're accepting it, which is what we talk about, the Ol Malchut Shemaim, the yoke of heaven, like the yoke as in the yoke that you put on an ox that pulls the, in farming, right, with animals when they put the yoke on the beast of burden's neck and they can pull things, and we talk about the yoke of heaven, right? We take upon ourselves the yoke of heaven that we are able to pull that way. So here we are taking that on. We are saying God is ours. Not that God is ours, but the role. Like we're accepting it. We're taking it upon ourselves.
It's a lot happening in these 3 paragraphs, huh?
It's a lot, exactly. So it's to go back to the sports metaphor, it's kind of like, the coach is God is giving us the vision in the first half. And then the captain is get us to say Shema, and we're running out onto the field with the Hu Eloheinu.
So this only happens on Shabbat. During the week, we're not going through this whole God's Megillah, right?
Correct. This is only on Shabbat and Chag.
Shabbat and Chag and the high holidays.
Yeah, that's why it's called. Maybe that's why it's called the Kedusha Rabbah, the Great Kedusha. It's this expanded version. But it captures kind of like what we're supposed to be doing here, which is kind of entering a different spiritual space for the first half, and then kind of really I keep going to the word owning, inhabiting it really as people in the second half.
But in the daily,
Hmm?
but in the daily Kedusha,
Yeah?
the essence of it is the same.
Yep.
You've given
It is.
meaning to it that I gave it
Mm-hmm.
in the past. But that page bothers me that we leave out every day when we say it silently. Because I don't know why we wouldn't say this silently, just as we say the rest of the Amidah. scene of angels and God sitting in the middle saying, yes.
So let me just come back to that in just 1 second. With the last kind of point of it, which is of what I was teaching here, which is after we say the Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu part, right? The really bold thing is that we say then, as human beings, Ani Hashem Elohechem. I am the Lord your God. Like we're saying, because we are the ones who, not that we are God, but we act out God's will in earth.
Isn't it God you're saying God's words, just as in so many places in the prayer book, we are speaking as if we were God. I am the God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. How is it different?
It's the way it's set up here in terms of there's a famous Hasidic story. It's not. I don't know if it's Hasidic, of students asking the rabbi, "Where do we find God's presence?" And his answer is, "Wherever you let God in." Our teacher, Rabbi Neil Gilman, Zichrono Livracha, he would say, if you want to see, when we want to see God's presence in the world, that's our job, is to bring God's presence into the world. And we're reminding ourselves of that here. That we don't pray in a room for things to change out in the world. We pray in the room to change ourselves so that we change the world. And in terms of imagining the Kedusha, David, if you just go back to 156b and you look at that blessing that we say when we say the silent Amidah, we can put our imagination fully into that as well. Atah Kadosh, God, you are holy. V'shimcha Kadosh, and your name is holy. Utoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela. And your holiness we praise every day. Right, so we can put our imagination into those tripartite phrase, and let it run amok. We can imagine the things that you imagine that when you are saying the Kedusha. But our tradition is a communal tradition. It always has been. I mean, it always has been for the past 1,800 years or so, right? And that's what has kept us going. If we don't have things that we reserve for saying only when we are in community together, then we don't come together in community. And it's like the teaching of the rabbis that wherever there are 10 Jews present, you have the presence of the Shekhinah. That a minyan brings God's presence, because we are collective, we are communal beings, we are social. So we can do a lot of things on our own, but there are certain things that are beyond us as individuals, and we have to rely upon community.
But clearly I look at things differently than most people, and I don't identify Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox or Chabad, and yet I'll go to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do it in English. I don't know the Hebrew, but as you go through the book, every morning, go on page 7, maybe you will have known my God and God of my ancestors to protect me. I can't say that. I can say comfortably, maybe you will, I don't know, our God, and to protect us. And I feel it's too selfish to personalize it.
Mm.
But that's me.
Yeah, I mean,
I think, David, one of the experiences I have, and Cantor probably has the same, is when we talk to people who are coming to us either because they didn't grow up with a lot of Yiddishkeit or knowledge, or they haven't been in a long time, and they feel inauthentic and even exposed walking into the sanctuary on Shabbat morning. I feel like everyone is looking at them, and everyone knows that they don't know anything. How many times I've heard that from people in that place in life, I can't tell you. And that's when I get to share with them that a lot of people in the room feel exactly the same way.
But at least you're in the room.
But at least yeah, exactly. And and people feel that way, but no one is looking at you and judging you. That's the important thing.
I mean, there are some of us that do judge them, but
By the time they figure that out, it's too late.
It's kiddish time.
They're already in, But I think everyone, what I'm trying to say here is, David, in response to what you said, that which seemed to suggest to me that you think you're the only one who accommodates what you say or how you understand it, and that makes you, okay, because I think everyone does that to some degree.
I'm the only one who admits it.
You know what really bothers me about those people is that Kiddush, they put the tomatoes on before the lox.
Uh-oh.
But did they turn it upside down before they eat?
That's me. I put the tomato on first. I know.
No lady,
It doesn't fall off that way, because you put the tomato on top, it squishes all over the place.
we have a very bright young woman, 12, no, now she's 16, who's in the Torah study. And she was always thinking someplace outside the box.
Mhm.
This morning, something came up about the number 60 and 1/60th, and the example given was the drop of milk in
In
the
the
pot of
stew or whatever.
and after a couple of seconds, she said, wait a minute. If it's 1/50th, can I add more soup?
No.
You must be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I thought
That's 16.
That's good thinking.
that was the best.
No, that's a great question.
These are the people we have to make. These are the future of Judaism, so that you have to keep them engaged, so they're asking
Yeah.
those questions.
Exactly. That's a very good question.
It was fantastic. I actually applauded it.
Yeah. When you say 1/60th, it's really, it's like saying a bissel. A pinch. It doesn't really mean like a 60th and how are you going to do the calculation?
But thank you, you gave more meaning to this than I had before.
Everyone, everyone bringing it to it, but thanks. It's every time you talk about angels, it's a little, for me, I feel fuzzy.
So these are the Kedusha angels. Don't angels have one particular task?
Probably in some tradition, there are definitely traditions that are very, imaginative about which angels do what. But it's like with Kabbalah, when you have, all the sefirot, and you get into the energy of the flows through one sefirot to the next and up and down, it's very intricate, but then it's also not meant to be taken literally. It's not like really an expression of the world. It's a conception of spiritual energy that we're imagining as we connect to God, and God connects to us. That's very intricate. But we should daven Mari. But David, you have a question while we're getting to daven?
I guess I still don't understand why people listen to Ezekiel after waiting in the street for a year.
Wait, why the people who what?
Listened to Ezekiel after he laid in the street for a year. And yet, they listened. Just
I don't know. Yeah. Rishon or Sheni?
I understood.
Why the what?
Different, you know, in the.
No, why are they different? No, no,
Not tradition.
in length.
You know, for let's say Yom Tov, I'm looking.
Yeah.
On page 243, it's so short.
Yep.
If you go, I mean, for Kedusha, for Shabbat, the word, not only the words are different, and even, you know, for Shacharit,
Mm-hmm.
they're different.
Yeah, they're tighter.
Why, I mean, why are they different?
Well, on the weekday, because we have work to get to.
No, the shortest one is for the for the Yom Tov. I'm looking.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a short, that's a minta. I know my Kedusha.
The Mincha for Yom Tov. And then for
On Yom Tov, you get Adir Adireinu, Adoshem Elokeinu.
Well, why don't we open our Siddur to 137?
So you'll take me through what parts we do and we don't do.
Oh, because we don't? Yeah. So no Baruch Hu, we just start after Baruch Hu.
Oh, so middle of page 137. Baruch atah Umaver yomu mevi laila madil ben yomu vayna Adonai tzavot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimo chalei lam voyim baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravi mavat olam ki im chayenu v'yarech yomeinu vohim negei yomam v'lalav v'yavatachal tasir mimenu li'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisroel Shema Yisroel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Kimer Shemayim ala aretz yom Adonai Moshe le'modeh be'ez l'tid. Ani Adonai Elohim asher hotzeiti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'yol lechem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem. Even though we didn't have a minion, sorry about that. Umalchuto b'ratzon kivu alehem Moshe v'nei Yisrael lechanu shira b'segla rabba v'yamru chulav mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh narati la'osei fele malchut charo v'necha b'kei yom l'fnei Moshe zeili anu v'yamru Adonai imloch li'olam bo'ed v'nemar ki fada Adonai Yaakov ugiyol mi'achazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai goal Yisrael hashki v'einu Adonai leinu Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechem ushalom yatavet olam baruch atah Adonai shomer amo Yisrael la'ad. Yureneinu v'yismach libeinu v'tagil nafshenu b'yeshuvat b'yemet ba'amol tzyon malach Elohai Adonai melech Adonai melech lilam v'ed ki malchut shelcha ilu yamei atimloch b'chavod ki ein lanu melech ela ata baruch ata Adonai hamelech b'kvodo tamid yimloch aleinu lilam v'ed v'yal kol ma'asav.
We got quietly, 142 to 148.
Ben yom hashvi'i l'shet yemei maseh v'yom ha'ken. Yirotani mei fi v'yolavi lifanecha naitzri v'goali Yahoseh shalom b'ramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru
Just
amen.
give me 1 second.
We counting the Omer?
Yeah, nothing's up.
We counting the Omer?
No, I just think because of Hanukkah, it changes anything. I don't think it's
So do we go to 158 for any reason?
Yeah.
V'hi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu u'maseh yedenu k'no aleinu maseh yedenu k'no Yoshua ben Zedek. V'yiftach v'yeshem echa ki lo azavta doshecha Adonai Adonai gavetz mantiko yagdil Torah v'yadir aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol ate gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu k'gayehu aratzot v'lo samanu k'mishmukot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gahor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Kemal Gucci io mi atimlok bekavod kakadu retorteka ayon lokhilam voed venemar vayan the milk alcoholets by yom haoya adonai echad ushemo echad. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi. Ayam da 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 da, ayam da 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 da.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen yadadai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim borei minei besamim la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei haesh borei meorei haesh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim ben yom hashevi l'sheshet yemei hamaseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Shavuot Adotenu yimol Zarinu v'kaspeinu yarbe yarbe kachol Kachochavim alayla Shavuot Tov Yarbe kachol Kachochavim alayla Shavuot Tov Shavuot Tov Shavuot Tov Shavuot Tov Shavuot Tov
Maybe not in the big service.
Moshe Puppet.
Small.